welcome back. So today we're going to be meeting a plant that doesn't nearly get the attention that it deserves. If I asked 10 random people walking around if they have ever heard of Elecampane, I'm willing to bet most would say no. But if we ask our friends the herbalists, everybody would probably say they have heard it. And that's because Elecampane has a remarkably long history in traditional Western herbalism, particularly as the root that herbalists have traditionally appreciated for supporting the respiratory system. So today we're going to talk about this plant a little bit, learn a little bit about its history, explore why herbalists have respected it for generations, and of course, take a small peek at how it is traditionally prepared. So, Elecampane's scientific name is something like Inula helenium, and it's a member of the daisy family. So if you've only seen the dried root in a jar, you might be surprised by the plant itself. It grows into a large, impressive perennial with broad leaves and bright yellow flowers that almost resemble a wild sunflower, if you will. It's a beautiful garden plant, but the root is where traditionally the prize sits. It's an important lesson, right? That not all medicinal plants are valued for their flowers. Sometimes we're going for the treasures hidden underground, right? So Elecampane has been used for centuries throughout Europe and parts of Asia. And one of the legends surrounding the plant says it sprang up from the tears of Helen of Troy, which is why you'll sometimes hear stories connecting the plant with her name. You're starting to see where her scientific name came from, right? So whether the legend is true, right, I do think that it's important to realize the plant was enough that people weaved stories around it, right? So whenever people start to put plants into their folklore, it's kind of important to pay attention to them, right? Because if you're going to tell stories about a plant, you value and prize the plant, regardless of where the stories came from. Now, I have to warn you, if you've ever smelled Elecampane root, you're in for an experience. So I recommend getting some and smelling it. It's not a bad smell, right? It's earthy and spicy. It has a slightly sweet scent to it, and some people even pick up notes of camphor or citrus. And depending on who you ask, you either love it or they hate it, right? So it depends on if you like the earthy scents or not, if you're going to enjoy the scent of that root. I'm not here to judge either way. We all have things that we enjoy smelling, and we all have things that we don't. So one of the things I've learned is that herbalists become very comfortable smelling things most people wouldn't. And I definitely fit into that bucket. So if you watched our previous video about smelling things, well, you know where I land on that camp. I do enjoy just hanging out in the apothecary and smelling things because sometimes you just are curious, right? So when you begin comparing herbal references, you'll notice something interesting. Elecampane keeps appearing in discussions about respiratory. So that's where we're talking about it because we're kind of working through some respiratory herbs first. Herbalists have appreciated it as a warming herb that supports the respiratory system. And like I said, the root has traditionally been used. Like mullein, it appears in respiratory formulas and in blends, right? And it's one of the moments where herbalism starts to become interesting, right? Two herbs supporting the same body system as usual. But they don't necessarily do it in the same way. And that's why it's important to study the individual plants before you learn how to combine them. Don't just start mixing recipes if you don't understand what you're doing. So let's take a peek at the plant, right? So one of the major constituents you'll read about Elecampane is inulin. Interesting, the word inulin was actually named after plants in the Inula genus. Inulin is a type of soluble fiber found in plants. You'll also read about the aromatic compounds that contribute to elecampane's distinctive smell and flavor. And those aromatic constituents are one of the reasons the root is quite memorable. Again, you don't have to memorize the chemical names or anything, but I do think it's fun to kind of learn about them, right? Instead of just saying, oh, it's good for respiratory. Why? People are going to ask, right? So understanding the fingerprint of the plant helps us choose one herb over another when we do later start to formulate, right? So, because elecampane is a root, tea is prepared a little differently than with delicate leaves or flowers, right? Instead of simply pouring hot water over it, you would simmer the roots gently to extract the constituents, right? So we'd make a decoction for this because it's a root, right? It's a little firmer. It's one of the little details that reminds us the plant part matters, because once you determine the plant part you're using, how you extract changes, right? So it gives you a little variance in your apothecary over flowers and leaves. Now we're kind of moving to the root of things, and we have to change how we extract, right, for water. Unlike herbs where we harvest leaves or flowers, elecampane asks us to be patient while we wait for our concoction. The root is generally harvested after the plant has had time to establish itself, and harvesting the root means the plant won't continue to grow. So it's a good reminder to harvest thoughtfully and only what you will actually use, right? We're not trying to eradicate, and we're not trying to be greedy. We don't want to wipe out something in an area. If you see there's only one plant left, leave it alone, right? Elecampane is most valuable, right, from that part that nobody sees, right? All season long, the flowers catch your attention, but underground, that root has been quietly storing energy, nutrients, and chemistry that we have appreciated for generations. And I think that's a beautiful reminder, again, that not everything that is valuable is immediately visible, especially in herbalism. So I encourage you to do something simple. Find a source of dried elecampane root, smell it. I mean, really smell it, unless it gives you a headache, and then stop sniffing it. But notice its aroma before you ever read what someone else says about it. I mean, hands-on is the best way before you dive into the books, right? It helps you remember things better. Then compare 2 or 3 herbal references as usual, right? Look for the themes they agree on, and start to notice, right, that we're not memorizing anymore. We're getting that hands-on experience, and you'll find that you actually retain the knowledge more if you're actually playing with the substance instead of just reading about it, right? So I hope today's lesson helped introduce you to a plant that deserves a little bit more attention. Elecampane may not be as famous as mullein or chamomile, but it has earned a respectful place in traditional herbalism. Next time, we'll continue to explore another remarkable plant, right? We're going one herb at a time. We're going to do a body system at a time. Because then once we get through the body system, we're going to talk a little bit about blending the body systems, or, herbs for that body system. And then we're going to move on to a different body system. So I kind of hope all of these layer on top of each other as we build through this. That way you get the benefits of learning the individual plants, the individual uses of the plants, and then we'll talk about why we blend them and learn a little bit about formulation, because there's a lot of stuff out on the internet, guys, about, oh, this is the best detox ever, or this is the best respiratory blend. But if you don't understand why you're putting those herbs together, then, if you don't have a good reason or an understanding, you're not going to be able to recreate anything else, and you're just going to be dependent on those recipes. And sometimes it's nice to create your own science experiments. So until next time, I want you to stay rooted, stay curious, and as always, keep growing in grace.